Kevin Kiley is leaving the Republican Party effective immediately.
He announced today he'll be an independent for the remainder of his term in Congress. KCRA 3 political director Ashley Zavala spoke with him today. And the big question is why?
Yeah, this is all actually a pretty shocking development given that independents don't really do that well in California elections. This all stems from Proposition 50, which changed the makeup of California's congressional districts to give Democrats an upper hand in the upcoming election to Congress. Kiley, as a Republican, was a target in California's maps. So now Kiley is retreating from the Republican Party and registering as an independent, not just for that upcoming election, but as Lisa and Curtis mentioned, for the remainder of his term in the U.S. House of Representatives. He said he's frustrated with both parties and their inability to work together. He pointed to the government shutdown, which was the longest in U.S. history this year, or last year, I should say. He pointed to the gerrymandering of congressional districts across the country, plus the inability in Congress to extend health care subsidies. I asked him if this is essentially a fallout between him and the Republican Party and how he sees the party now. Here's how he responded.
I would characterize it as my frustration with partisanship itself and with the ways in which it is weakening our country. And I think that the redistricting war and the gerrymandering epidemic that has spread across the country and upended representation in our state is kind of the ultimate manifestation of that. But I see it manifest itself day in and day out here in Washington, D.C. And I think it's actually worse than a lot of people even realize. And so I think we are living in a time when we need to find ways to break down those barriers. We need to find ways to work together. And I think if you ask members of the public, 99% of Americans would say, yeah, the political divisions in this country have just gotten out of control. We need to find ways to come together as Americans more.
So Kiley is running for what's considered a new Sacramento area congressional district, District 6. It is a race that is packed with Democratic candidates. His opponents, from Planned Parenthood's Lauren Babb Tomlinson to former state senator Richard Pan, criticized what they consider his attempts to rebrand himself.
So he was elected as a Republican to Congress. If, as of today, he is an independent, what does this mean for the rest of his term in Washington, D.C.?
Yeah, I mean, really for the rest of the year, Kiley said he'll still caucus with Republicans because he was elected to Congress this term as a Republican. Caucuses are those closed-door meetings between the group of lawmakers. But Kiley suggested he likely will not be a safe vote for the Republican Party there in Congress. Republicans already have a razor-thin margin in the House of Representatives, which Kiley is now making even thinner with this update today. Could be tough for President Donald Trump to get his agenda through again if Republicans just don't have the votes in the House.
Well, these sound like feelings that he's kind of had for a while, and he's been known as someone to get things done for his constituents. Do you think if the redistricting never happened, was never approved, that he would still change parties?
I mean, it's really hard to say. The redistricting situation, though, really sort of set the tone, though, between him and the party, because you saw that Republicans at the national level really weren't doing a lot to step in and fight for Republicans like Congressman Kevin Kiley. He did note other reasons where he sees this division, where Republicans and Democrats just can't work together. But yeah, it's really hard to say. He wasn't asked that today, but it is something to follow up on.
All right, Ashley, thank you.